Welcome to ClickFunnels Radio, the podcast that brings you the latest strategies, insights, and success stories from online marketers just like you who utilize funnels to grow their business. Our mission is simple: to help you unleash the true potential of your online business by harnessing the power of funnels. Join us every week as we bring you exclusive interviews and thought-provoking discussions that will revolutionize the way you approach online marketing. Here are your hosts, Laura Demetrius and Chris Cameron.
Welcome back to ClickFunnels Radio. My name is Chris Cameron, and joined with me as always is my amazing co-host, Laura Demetrius. Laura, how are you today?
Thanks, Chris. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. This has been fun today. We've kind of had some back-to-back interviews. So I'm really excited about this next one. I actually initially met John. It's been, I guess it was back in May, and had lunch with he and Kevin Richards. And I was so fascinated just as I was kind of like thinking of myself and maybe some of the false beliefs that I still experience. But let me tell you a little bit about John Assaraf. He's a world-renowned mindset and small business growth expert who's appeared numerous times on Larry King Live, Anderson Cooper, and The Ellen DeGeneres Show. He has built 5 multi-million-dollar companies, written 2 New York Times best-selling books, and appeared in 12 movies, including the blockbuster hit, as many of you know, The Secret and The Quest for Success with Richard Branson, and the Dalai Lama. He is passionate in helping people tap into their brain's superpowers so that they shatter limitations and achieve their life's biggest goals and dreams. John founded myneurogym.com, which is revolutionizing mindset coaching and mental fitness. His cutting-edge Innercise app helps people rewire their brain for unstoppable success. John is an avid meditator, father, and husband who loves to exercise and travel the world. Welcome out, John Assaraf. So good to see you again, my friend.
Chris, it's so great to see you. And Laura, so great to be with you too.
Yeah. And I have to add this little note in before we go too deep in this conversation. I even told Chris before we jumped on this call, I was like, I hope I don't come across as like a total fangirl, but I don't think I'm going to be able to help it. I was introduced to you originally actually by reading The Secret, and then I listened to the audiobook, and then I watched the movie, and then I was like, John Assaraf, that name just keeps coming up. So then I just like learned all about you. And I just have to say, I'm just a huge fan of everything that you do.
Thank you.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to clear the air. I'm just going to admit that from the get-go.
That's awesome. Well, I think this is so appropriate for our listeners. I think oftentimes our listeners are their own worst enemies, and the users of ClickFunnels, right? And people who are starting their own businesses, they're their own worst enemy. So I'm going to start though with a question, John. Tell me why mindset? How did this journey start, and why are you so passionate about this topic?
Oh, my. I've got to take you back in time in the way back machine.
Okay.
I'll take you to when I was 19. Just to put into perspective, that's 43 years ago. Now, what was happening in my life at 19? I was getting in trouble with the law. I was doing drugs. I was selling drugs. I was doing breaking and entry.
Holy cow.
I had left high school at grade 11 because I flunked English and math and didn't think that I was smart enough. I was voted most likely to fail. And then, because my brother was concerned for my life, he asked me if I would meet this friend of his and just meet him for lunch, and maybe he could help me out, so to speak. So I said, yeah, sure. I was living in Montreal at the time, and this guy and my brother lived in Toronto. And so I took the train, met this guy for lunch. And at lunch, he asked me, like, why do you think you're getting into so much trouble? And I gave him the typical answer, well, I don't know. And he said, well, come on, you're taking these actions, which you know are not the right actions. You're going to get caught sooner or later. You're going to go to jail, or you're going to die. Why are you doing it? I said, well, I guess I want to make some money. I want to fit in. I left high school, didn't do well. They told me I wasn't smart enough. And I gave him this entire story for about 5 minutes. And he said, fine, okay, I get that. He said, what do you want to achieve? I said, well, I'd like to buy a car. I didn't have a car at the time. I'd like to get a job that pays me more than $1.65 an hour. And I would love to move out of my parents' home. That's what I would really like. He says, great, those things are easy. What would you really like to do? And I said, I don't know. And so he gave me this document, God's honest truth. We're sitting there at lunch. He gives me this document, and it was the 1980 goal-setting guide. Now, I know a lot of people weren't even born then, but it was a 1980 goal-setting guide. And he said, do me a favor, just fill out the answers to some of these questions, and then we can talk some more. So I said, sure. I opened this thing up, and the first question is, at what age do you want to retire? And I'm sitting there scratching my head like I'm 19. And when do I want to retire? My father was a cab driver. He didn't retire. My mother worked at the local Kmart store, seaming, dresses. She couldn't retire. We didn't know anybody that retired. So I asked him, excuse me, sir, what should I put here? And he goes, just pick a number. And I said, is like 26 years from now okay when I'm 45? He goes, sure, put it down. Second question, upon retirement, how much money do you want to have as your net worth? Mm-hmm. And so I looked at him and I looked at my brother and I kind of like put my hands up in there. I said, what does net worth mean? And
wow, yeah.
He explained to me what net worth is. I was as green comes. So I wrote down $3 million. That's like, what kind of car do you want? I wrote Mercedes-Benz. What kind of home do you want? 4-bedroom. Where do you want to travel? All over the world. What kind of experiences do you want to have? What do you want to wear? And I wrote all these answers down, and he took all my answers, and this was the pivotal moment. He read them. He says, this is great. This is a life that you'd be proud of, isn't it? I go, yeah, of course I would. Yeah, I'm going to ask you one question, and the answer to this question will determine whether you achieve all of these things. And I'm sitting there thinking, one question will determine if I achieve all of those things: my Mercedes, my house, my travel, my charity, taking care of my parents, retiring them, all that stuff. He goes, are you interested in achieving these things? Or are you committed to achieving them?
Yes.
And I said, interested, committed. I said, sir, what's the difference? And he leaned in and he lowered his voice. He says, when somebody is interested, they allow their stories and reasons and excuses to control their thinking and their behavior. When somebody is interested, they do what's easy and convenient. When somebody is interested, they believe their disempowering beliefs, and they reinforce their disempowering habits that go along with those beliefs. But when somebody is committed, and this, I'm getting chills telling you this, and he said, when somebody is committed, they upgrade their identity to match the new destiny.
Yeah.
They upgrade their beliefs, they upgrade their perspectives, they upgrade their habits, and yes, they upgrade their knowledge and skills to match the level of success that they say they want. And he leans in, he goes, so are you interested or are you committed? And I still can't answer this question right now as to why I did what I did. I said, well, in that case, I'm committed. And he leaned over, put his hand down. He says, in that case, I will be your mentor. And I said, wow, thank you. What's a mentor?
Right? Yeah, 19 years old.
So the question, the answer shifted the trajectory of my life, because then I moved from Montreal to Toronto, went to real estate school, passed the test 5 weeks later on my own. I became a licensed real estate agent. I went to work in his office for commission only.
Wow.
And then I started to learn how to sell and market. And he helped me upgrade my identity by looking at my vision and my goals every day. By putting my fingers across my goals, left hand, right hand, visualizing it, seeing it, repeating it, emotionalizing. And then he had me write out, what would I need to believe in order to make the vision and the goals my new reality? So I wrote down, I need to believe I'm good enough. I need to believe I'm smart enough. I need to believe it's possible. I need to believe I can find the help. I wrote down all these beliefs, and then he had me record all of my entire vision, my entire goals, and my beliefs. And he had me listening to it every single day for a year. That was the beginning of me realizing I have more power than I think I do. And that was the beginning of me being fascinated with the human being, because I made $30,000 in my first 6 months working with him. And then I made $151,000 when I was 20. Selling real estate that I knew nothing about when I started.
And now calculate that for inflation now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then 6 years later, I started my own real estate company, and we grew to 1,200 salespeople and $4.5 billion a year in sales by applying what he taught me in that one little lunch, that I was, that I was blessed to have said yes to.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
So do you think this is possible for anyone as long as they basically understand the principle of upgrading their own identity.
Yeah. First and foremost, let's help people who are watching and or listening understand something. We all have a brain. It's an electromagnetic switching station. It is creating new patterns. It's creating associations every day. And here's the key that makes me say yes to your question, Laura. Every brain functionally works the same. Every brain functionally works the same. So if my brain and your brain and his brain and her brain and their brain all works the same, then are there some guiding principles of how the brain works that allows anybody to shatter their limitations, eliminate, the limiting beliefs or negative self-talk? Is there a way for us, any human, to develop constructive, empowering, move me towards my goals patterns versus destructive, disempowering patterns called beliefs or self-image or fears that may or may not be real or true that holds us back? So the answer is unequivocally yes. And I've worked with people in their teens, I've worked with people in their 80s. And when they understand the principles of how do I use my $100 billion brain better, because nobody has a user's manual for it, how do I use it better, then everybody achieves the success they want when they're committed.
This is amazing, because I know people can say they're committed, or let's say that they go to an event or they read your book or something like this, and they listen to the podcast and they say, okay, I am committed, I'm going to change. But then they naturally fall off. Somebody goes to Funnel Hacking Live and they have this temporary suspension of belief, right? And they come back and they're committed, but then it falls off. What would you say? Is this something daily that has to happen? What changes somebody who has this belief and this feeling, but then it tapers off? How do they avoid
Keep
that?
Showing up for yourself. Yeah.
So listen, first and foremost, what I'll say to that individual is everything is happening the way it's supposed to, and there's nothing wrong with you. So when we understand that you're not the problem, but maybe your conditioning, can be upgraded. So let's back up for just a moment, and let me ask everybody a question that maybe, paying attention right now is, were you born as a baby with any beliefs about anything? No. There wasn't a baby born with a belief. Well, was any baby ever born with a fear of something? No. Was any baby born saying, well, I guess now that I'm born, I'm not worthy or good enough or smart enough?
It's all learned behavior.
So they didn't have an identity, a self-image or self-worth. So let's go back to some of the principles of what we know about the brain. Every brain has about 100 billion cells, or I call them like marbles when we're born. And those marbles or cells make connections. The connections that are reinforced become the software of the brain, become the conditioned mind. And then our brain, because of something called automaticity, any pattern that is reinforced becomes an automatic pattern that requires zero energy to activate and implement. So when we understand that, well, maybe I have some disempowering beliefs. Maybe I have disempowering beliefs that I'm too young or too old or too Asian or Caucasian or too this or not enough of that, and I need this in order to do that. And I have this inner dialogue around beliefs. But what we know is beliefs will drive the majority of your behaviors. So if you have beliefs that are limiting you, the first question is this: can you deactivate a belief pattern and replace it with a more empowering, constructive, positive one? And the answer, of course, is yes. According to the latest research in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new connections, the answer is yes. No differently than if I want to get stronger, let's say my bicep muscle or shoulder muscle or my abs, I could do sit-ups to make my abs stronger, or leg raises. I could do, shoulder presses or bicep curls, and my muscle gets stronger, even if it's weak. Even into my 80s, 90s, 100s, I could start and get stronger.
Yeah.
Well, what if we considered our beliefs neuromuscles? Let's just use that as a parallel metaphor. Now let's go again. If a baby wasn't born with a self-image, an image of self, of what I deserve, what I could do, smart enough or good enough, if we weren't the ones who created our self-image, then is it possible that self-image neuromuscles were created between the time I was born and I was imprinted with my parents, my teachers, my siblings, or television? I had this self-image of who I am, what I am. What about self-esteem or self-worth, right? So all of the things that we consider around self-image, self-worth, self-esteem, beliefs, habits are nothing more, from a pure neuroscience perspective, nothing more than a pattern that has been created and reinforced that has now become automatic. So if it's true that I can rewire my brain for unstoppable success, then the next question becomes how? How do I deliberately change myself? How do I deliberately change myself? And all the stuff that I'm talking about, most people have never learned this stuff. It's not in in university or grade school or high school. Unless you're,
but I'm pretty certain they're probably now all asking themselves, well, how do I do that now?
Sure. So, as soon as somebody gets their self-talk patterns right, then we start to see neuroplasticity taking effect. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I say something that's not real, like right now, like I am so happy and grateful for the fact that I am earning $1 million a year. We know it's not true for some people or most people, right? But if you say it one time, there's another part of your brain, all right, that says, bullshit, that's not true. You're not earning $1 million a year, and it kind of like fluffs it away. And then you keep repeating that day 1, day 7, day 21, day 30, day 45. Every time you say it, you activate and create a pattern. Now, here's the beauty of how this works. Once the pattern creates some connection that's strong, which takes about 66 days, by the way. That's the average. 66 days is like the beginning of an old pattern being released and a new pattern being
my first time hearing that actual time frame.
Well, the new research out of London last year showed that. And so let's say I affirm something. I affirm in my mind. I create a deliberate positive language pattern around something that's not even real. I am at my ideal weight of 197 pounds, and I have so much energy, and I'm making $1 million a year, and my business is thriving. We're helping so many people, blah, 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 blah. Even a lie repeated and emotionalized and visualized activates the same neural patterns as the old pattern. Now, interesting. If I start to visualize the end result that I want, if I start to emotionalize, what would it be like for that to be real? What if I choose to accept this affirmation and this visualization and adding the energy to the motion? Energy and motion is emotion. If I do that, then the neurons that fire together start to wire together. And when I create a new pattern that requires energy at first, because our brain's third priority is to conserve energy, if I keep deliberately doing it, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 66 days, our brain at a certain point says, well, I'm just going to make this the default pattern. I'm going to release the other one for now. So now all of a sudden, you start to activate the Einstein part of the brain required for how can I achieve this? You activate the motor cortex of the brain to take action. You activate the GPS part of the brain that will lead you there. You activate the entire physiology of the human body to match the new pattern, and it starts to see things it didn't see. It starts to think of things it didn't think about before. It starts to behave in ways you haven't before, to the point where you're going to say, how come this is so easy for me to take action now?
Wow.
Before? Well, it's because you changed the software that drives action or behavior. Now, here's the good news. Anybody can do it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we all have capacity to do that.
Here's the bad news. People don't do what they should do.
That's very true.
Time. So because it's easy, you can do it. Because it's easy, you can't. So what I have really come to learn, and I've taught this literally to hundreds of thousands of people, is this. Anytime you want to shift from a disempowering, dominant thought pattern that may be negative, 80% of people's thoughts are negative, 95% are repetitive. If you think about why, well, that's because in the subconscious mind, we have literally trillions of ideas and thoughts, but those are all automated. Thoughts are automatic. Thinking is deliberate. And so what we want to do is ease people into it. And this is why I created this body of work called Innercise, is to train your own brain the way you might train your body by walking or hiking or doing a spin class or yoga or Pilates or a hike, whatever the case is. And so if I start to regulate my self-talk, if I then back that up with regulating my emotions, the energy that's in motion, then I'm activating something called the reward center in the brain. And when I activate the reward center in the brain and I start to visualize and affirm and take some action towards what I want, even if it's a small, tiny action, I'm actually releasing dopamine. If I'm doing it with friends or I'm in a group of friends, I could be releasing serotonin and oxytocin, the feel-good neurochemical. And so now I can start to manage first and then master my physiology.
Wow.
Right. And so this is just a little bit deeper, of a way of being, as opposed to being a victim of my past or present circumstances. I can say there's a cause to why maybe I'm not taking action. And if I want to change the cause, okay, there's an effect, there's an effect of my thoughts, emotions, and behavior. But if I change the cause of the effect, then everything starts to change. And we are all creatures of
habit.
Oh, right. And a habit is where?
In your brain.
It's part of a place in the brain called the striatum. And so all of a sudden, if I'm a creature of habit and my thoughts are habitual, my emotions are habitual, and yes, my behaviors are habitual, can I deliberately shift my own software and reinforce it with empowering software? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes.
This is fascinating. And you mentioned one thing, and you pointed over one of your shoulders. You pointed to Einstein. Okay, so that might be the rewiring part. But I also noticed you got Frankenstein. Well, Frankenstein's monster. Is there a correlation between these two? What's going on? I'm assuming there is.
I'm going to answer this in a roundabout way, and I'm going to ask you and Laura, do you like having brakes and gas pedals in your car?
Well, yeah, I need to go and stop.
Oh, you do? Okay. And do you like having the light pop up when your windshield wiper is low or your tire is low on air?
Love warnings.
Or Love warnings. So you like those early warnings?
Yeah.
All right. So think of it this way. Einstein chooses where you want to go and can help you get there by saying, go left, go right. Here's the map. Here's the destination. Put this into my Waze or my Google Maps and they'll get you there. Well, what happens, let's say you're using Waze and there's an accident 5 miles ahead. It gives you a warning. Hey, here, early warning. There's an accident 5 miles ahead. Take this route instead. Well, we all have this Einstein part of our brain that is the genius part of our brain. It's the GPS of the brain. It's the brain that can make plans and goals. And I want this. I don't want that. I love this. I don't love that. And that's what that's what Einstein does. But Frankenstein's monster is built for the highest need of a human being. And so if you ask yourself, why do we even have a brain? And what is the number one need or priority of the brain? And the answer is survival, safety, and security. So let's say we set a goal that we don't know how to achieve. It excites me. It's like, I want to achieve this revenue. I want to use ClickFunnels to help this many people with my business. I want to help. I want to do great. But let's say somewhere in your brain, there's a fear of failing. There's a fear of being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged or rejected. Let's say,
what's my family going to think? I'm taking off on this entrepreneurial journey. Like, what am I doing? Yeah.
And what if I make a mistake? And what if I cost my family money? And this part of our brain, Frankenstein's monster, his responsibility is to always, 24/7 think of what if negative. So what if I fail? What if I disappoint my husband? What if I disappoint my wife? What if I lose money and I put myself in a worse situation? So we have Einstein wants to go. Let's go. Use your imagination. Let's go. We can do this. But Frankie's monster, which is the right prefrontal cortex part of the brain, says, what if negative? It's just
those limiting beliefs.
It's an early warning detection mechanism that counters, what Einstein wants to do, the CEO, executive director of the orchestra.
Yeah.
So Frankie's responsibility is to put on the brake, shine the light, shine the light, shine the light, shine the light. There's a potential problem here. So whenever we have a belief that limits us, Frankie's active. Whenever we have a fear, real or imagined, our brain doesn't care, real or imagined, Frankie releases cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, the fight, flight, or freeze neurochemicals. So not the reward, go forward, go and do this, you're going to be a winner. No, it's the counter to that. It's the brakes to the gas pedal analogy.
Which can probably lead you into a spiral too, because those negative things when you're releasing cortisol just make you feel like crap. And it's not something you can usually just bounce right back out of either.
Yeah, a little bit of cortisol or adrenaline is very, very good. It's actually, if you can use the neurochemicals of fear and doubt and uncertainty with dopamine, it's actually what's required for a flow state. Now, what happens is most people, are trying to either remove all of that angst, and so they have alcohol or take pills, or they just do something else to release that tension that's within them, instead of using their neurochemistry to fuel themselves. And so the first question becomes, can I learn how to quiet Frankie's monster?
Yeah.
And the answer is, of course. And this is where I'll share maybe Innercise 1 and 2. So the first Innercise I teach every client is called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. So if you think about, the human brain, right? We've got, let's say, Einstein's left prefrontal cortex connected to the limbic system, connected to the brainstem and the, reptilian or lizard brain. We know that we have a nervous system, right? The vagus nerve actually connects to all of the major organs. And so we know that when I'm in a calm, responsive, happy, state, then my parasympathetic nervous system is active. The neurochemicals associated with being calm, so I could respond and be happy, they're flowing. But as soon as Frankie's monster kicks in, it shifts over to the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the fight, flight, or freeze neurochemical. Now think about this. I have a vision, I have a goal, and I even get, ClickFunnels as a tool to use to help me.
Sure.
But let's say I don't know how to use it well yet. Yeah. Now I have some doubt, I have some uncertainty. And when Frankie notices the doubt or uncertainty, Frankie says, put on the brakes, get back into your comfort zone.
This is wild. I want to say one thing. You mentioned 66 days, and here's what I find fascinating. If we go look and see what happens if somebody stays in our software past 70 days, how much the chance of them churning out drops. And this number that we have is about 106 days. If somebody is with us, John, for 106 days, they're almost a customer for life.
Absolutely.
We can track that lifetime value. And that's why we focus so much on giving people the tools and resources like the One Funnel Away Challenge to keep them active daily. Beyond just that, hey, I'm excited. Yeah. And I know that Innercise does this. Like, I've been reading the book and I look at the app. This is something that people have to practice at and do daily. Talk maybe more about that practice daily?
Sure. So when we're looking at changing ourselves, right? We're not changing everything about ourselves, but what we are doing is changing the patterns. And so when we use, let's say, an app like Innercise, where we've done all of the perfect writing for self-talk and affirmations in a variety of different ways, whether it's, I'm so happy and grateful for the fact that, I'm so happy and grateful, right? Or I say, I promise that, I'm committed to. We use a variety of different methods to deliberately imprint and create the subconscious patterns with somebody. All they have to do is say, okay, I'm going to do this every day for 10 minutes. And I don't care if you're working and doing it. I don't care if it's in the background. I don't care if you put on headphones or you don't. We developed the Innercises using about 10 different methods that we know activate, the neuroplasticity switch, but also gets into the subconscious mind where this striatum is and where these patterns are. And so if we can get somebody to, like you mentioned, Innercise for at least 66 days, we see shifts of biblical proportions. Why? Wow. Because you're not and I don't want to say like the same person. I mean, you're the same person, but your belief system changes.
Habits change.
Image changes. Your habits start to change. And we're by nature, creatures who don't like to change.
Yeah.
Like our comfort zone. And so if you commit to, what I call is rewire your brain to become unstoppable, give yourself the promise of 10 minutes a day. If you want to do more, do more. Give yourself 10 minutes a day.
There you go.
If you don't do 10 minutes a day, commit to 5 minutes a day. If you don't want to commit to 5, commit to 3 minutes a day. And if you don't want to commit to 3 minutes a day, change your goals.
That's fair. Yeah. 3 minutes a day. Come on.
Yeah. Stop disappointing yourself, because it's
wow.
Either you're going to do the work or you're not.
Yeah.
Either you're going to feel proud of yourself and trust yourself, or you're going to keep setting goals that you don't follow through on, and you're going to trust yourself less, which means things are going to get worse, not better.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to go back to, are you committed, for example, in using ClickFunnels as an awesome tool to help you build your business? Yes or no? Are you committed? Yeah. If you're committed, can you commit, to 10 minutes a day of using the tool and getting better? Can you commit to 10 minutes a day of, let's say, innercising, so you're working on the outer skills and the inner self-image, self-worth as you progress and make, progression slowly? And if you think about this, if somebody's, let's say, 100 pounds overweight, and they commit to getting healthy and having a lifestyle with more energy, and they say, okay, I'm going to focus on my sleep, I'm going to focus on my eating plan, I'm going to focus on a little bit of exercise. Isn't it true that every single person who commits to those things will see a benefit in 1 week, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if they're interested, they won't. So the first thing to do, right, is ask, am I committed to building this business or growing the business for those who have a business already? And then learning a new tool requires cognitive capital.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I say is just make it a habit by focusing on 10 minutes a day. Now, here's something that is really pretty fascinating. Our brain doesn't really care if you do something simple or complex. When we're creating a habit, right, the consistency is more important than intensity, complexity, or time.
Wow.
So as long as you're just doing it.
First, you build the habit muscle, then the habit will build you.
I love that. There's something so beautiful and comforting about that too. Is like we all have the capacity to rewire our brain that way. Like, yeah, maybe most of us aren't doing it, but just knowing like these things are possible and you just have to commit to it. There's something really beautiful about that. And like, I just feel like this like warm sense of relief knowing like there's so much more that you can be doing.
I want to ask one more question too, John, if I could.
Yeah.
I find that people often need a why to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I'm committed, but why? We do this exercise too, whether it's in the One Funnel Away Challenge or even in our higher end coaching. We could try to even go 7 layers deep. Like maybe your why is I want to make $1 million, but why do you want to make $1 million? Well, it's because I want to be financially free. And we keep going, well, why do you want to be financially free? And we ultimately get to the 7th or 8th level of why. So when things get tough, you can continue going on. What have you found in the science of having that true purpose?
Sure. You're 100% on the money. There's several things that we need. We need to know the clarity of the what. We need to know why we must, not why we should or could. We need to know the how, because without the how, our brain goes into a state of doubt and uncertainty, which triggers the fear center. We need to know by when, and we need to know who can help us or what tools or resources can I use. Now, if you think about what we want is this part of the brain that's responsible for that. Why is the limbic system. And we often say, why you must has to be bigger than any fear. Why you must has to be bigger than your limiting beliefs. Why you must be bigger than your current identity. And so I always like to ask people, I often give people like an example. And I say, imagine that somebody offers you $100,000 to go to an elevator with them, and they take you up to the 100th story of a New York building. And you get up there, and it's a little bit windy, and you're not holding yourself up too well. And they say, hey, we'll give you $100,000 if you walk across the plank to the other building on the other side. And it's only like 75 feet away. How many people do you think would get on that plank for $100,000? And the answer is not many. Now, let's change the scenario. Let's say you go up that elevator and you notice that across in the other building, there is a person there, your child, your spouse, somebody that you love almost more than yourself, and there's zero money. How many of you would go across if the building was burning and they needed you to rescue them?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, it goes
You'd
like
crawl across if you had to, zero money. What just changed? The motive for the action, otherwise known as motivation. So when we come up with, why must I do it? Why must I do it now? And take the time. I must do it now because I want to be a great role model for my children. I want to be a great provider for my family. I want to do it because my relationship with God, has given me so many tools that I have to fulfill my potential. There's charities that need, my time and my money. And I refuse to be a settler. I refuse to let my life go by and be somebody who only wished and hoped and prayed, but didn't break through my boundaries. So come up with reasons why you must, because here's what I guarantee you. You will feel like quitting. I feel like quitting at times. You will feel like there's too much to learn. It's too hard. And it's doable. And you have to stretch yourself a little bit at a time outside of your current comfort zone.
John, I love that. We could talk to you all day about this. And I know we've hooked people right now, a lot of ClickFunnels users who are new, or whether they've been at it, or they're shifting what they're doing. I would encourage you to check out John's stuff. So John, if somebody wanted to find Innercise and the app and everything, where's the best place for them to go get involved?
Sure. So for the Innercise book and my other best-selling books, go to Amazon. And then for the app, whether it's on Android or iOS, Apple, go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. We just launched our app a couple of months ago, and we already have, I think, 4.9 star reviews across the board.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
So we're getting some great people having breakthrough after breakthrough. And anybody who goes there, right now we're offering the 7-day free trial once you choose a subscription for a year, a month, or lifetime. And start to train your brain. Start to rewire your brain deliberately. There's 525 brain training audios in the program for health, wealth, relationships, career, business, sales, leadership. Everything that a human being could want is already in there, and we're adding new ones every single month.
Well,
this
go
was
check it out.
This was a 5-star conversation. Would do it again. Very happy. Love it.
Exactly.
We can do it anytime you like.
10 out of
Many
10.
breakthroughs.
I love ClickFunnels. I recommend it to all of my clients. I just did a training literally last week for 1,000 small business owners, and I recommended ClickFunnels to all of them.
Perfect.
And so thank you guys for.
Well, we appreciate people like you too that are champions of the brand, and
thank you, John.
And we'll probably have to do this again at some point too. But go check it out. We'll put the links here in the description, and we just appreciate you. Thanks for coming on today, John.
This was such a fulfilling conversation. Thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Thank you too.
Thank you.